gentlemen, welcome to episode 292 of the Drunk Dash Nerds podcast. I'm your host, as always, I'm Tyler, and joining me, we have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Sir Colonel Gables, the Hot Rod.
Hey, Tyler.
Hey, buddy.
Oh, man, that's an interesting intro. But, and I'm doing okay. I just got through with my first real week of being a supervisor for a change. And, well, it was definitely pretty busy. I mean, I think I have been probably the busiest I've been while at work for quite a hell of a long time. And that's on top of everything else that I do. But, other than that, though, I have had a chance to play a few games. I did pick up a couple of different things and stuff. And I actually re-upped on my subscription to World of Warcraft, so now I have another 2 months. But, other than that, though, I am doing alright. How have you been doing, Tyler?
Doing alright as well. Unfortunately, the Hawkeyes lost tonight. That's kind of depressing. First loss of the season. But Gables and I just spent the last half an hour watching Pokemon episodes on Twitch, so that kind of made up for it.
Yeah, there you go.
It was something else. Hoo doggy. The amount of time I spent watching Pokemon back in the days, now watching episode and a half there, I'm just like, wow, that's pretty rough. That's pretty rough stuff here. A 6-year-old girl was able to break open a steel door.
And a giant, 6 foot, not 6 foot, a 30-foot rock snake or something like that, tugging on a fucking, cobra or something like that, and somehow the cobra not just bending over or being crushed to death is just beyond me.
Not ripped in half. Stuck between a hot air balloon and a 30-foot rock monster.
So, quintessentially, it's stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah! Yeah. It is almost literal rock and a hard place. Yeah, so that was something else. But yeah, I'm doing okay. It's been a rather depressing though 24 hours.
Aww.
We're just gonna slide right into the news. I think here. I don't really have much more to add. So people will probably all know now. It's been a big thing. It kind of broke Friday afternoon, and a lot of news has come out. It's kind of died off in the last probably 8 or 9 hours out of this recording. But late Friday night and early Saturday, a lot of stuff came out about TellTale Games. They closed their doors on, not closed their doors, but they are essentially as close to being closed as you can be without actually being closed. So they had about 250 employees Friday morning, and then a few hours into Friday, they had about 25 left.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I think came out of nowhere for a lot of people. They laid off everybody. No severance packages for any of them. They got 2 weeks of insurance, stuff like that, their benefits, and that's gone. A lot of them can't get unemployment. I was reading just that last week, one person actually flew cross country they got a job there and left their life in the East Coast to go start a job there, and then was laid off.
Wow.
So yeah, pretty crazy. So these employees were told, and not this hasn't been confirmed yet, but a few of them have kind of said it, so it sounds like it's true. They were told that not only they no longer had jobs, they wouldn't be getting a paycheck. There was no severance package. They lost everything. They had 30 minutes to leave the premises. And on top of all that, Stranger Things, which we talked about a few months ago, they just signed a big deal with Netflix about doing some of the Netflix shows, and not only using the IPs, Netflix's IPs, but also they were going to be releasing some of their games on Netflix to play. But Stranger Things has been canceled. The Wolf Among Us 2, has been canceled. And on top of that, so when it first happened, they said 25 people were left. It was to finish Walking Dead, the final season. So I think for a lot of people, it's it's at least it's the thing that kind of made them wasn't the first thing they did, was the thing that made them popular. At least, I mean, they can end it. They're going to end it with the final season of the thing that made them. That's just kind of poetic in a way, where that's the thing that made them is the last thing they'll ever do.
Yeah.
Not the case. So episode 2 of 4 comes out Tuesday, and once again, not 100% confirmed, but it sounds like it is true. Episode 2 will be the last episode of it, so
Wow.
it's being canceled mid-season.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so the 25 people left are there just to port their Minecraft story mode they did to Netflix. And then once that's done, it's probably over completely.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to it before I kind of go off on this one, Gables.
Well, to be perfectly honest, I'm just kind of in shock, because this news came roughly out of nowhere late Friday, and I do feel very I do feel very sorry and stuff for the people who did lose their jobs, who lost their livelihoods, just quintessentially, just randomly out of nowhere. It sucks, but stuff like that does happen inside of the gaming workplace, the gaming landscape. Actually, this field in general, I mean, there is a bunch of risks from developers to actually close up shop if they don't make sales, if they don't make different types of margins or something like that certain companies are supposed to make. But yeah, it's just very sad, But that's pretty much what I have to say, pretty much.
Okay. Yeah, this one, I got home from work yesterday, and I was just kind of, I was online, just kind of catch up on Twitter, and I read that, and it's one of those things where you read it, and it's just doesn't really hit you right away, it doesn't process, you just kind of keep scrolling through, and then you're like, wait a second, you read that again, no, that can't be right, and I read it again, I'm just like, what? Because initially the headlines were, and a lot of people at that point when it first started breaking was they thought it was closed completely, and then things started coming up, reports started coming out after the fact. But somebody, I've been a fan of TellTale since I think it was 2011, 2012, when The Walking Dead season 1 dropped.
Right.
And I've talked a lot on this podcast over the 5+ years about TellTale. There's been stretches where I hated them. There's been not hated them, but I've been really frustrated with them. There's been times where I've been they're one of the best in the biz. And lately, I felt like they were knocking out of the park. They had Tales of the Borderlands, which we both loved.
Yep.
Then they had Walking Dead season 3, and then they had Batman season 2. There was Guardians of the Galaxy, which was really good. I know some people didn't love it, but I thought it was really good. Then they had this final season, and it's just it just seemed, and then they announced all these future projects, and it just seemed like they were getting their shit on in order finally, with all the things that we were frustrated with about. There's so many projects going on. There was that rough stretch there in 2013, 2014, where it was you would go 3 months between episodes with no news or updates on anything, and they just randomly hey, it's coming out on Tuesday. It'd be a Friday. And there was just so many projects, and just the stuff, it just wasn't as good anymore. There was Walking Dead season 2, Game of Thrones in there. And it finally seemed like they were so they laid off half of their employees last November. And it was really sad, but the way they kind of turned it is obviously it sucks that 200 people lost their jobs. But for the company, it seemed like it was oh, this is a good move. Okay, they're focusing on, instead of being spread out and having the they had an A, B, C, and D team. It sounded for a while there, and then they let go all those employees, and now we're going to focus on a couple projects at a time. We're going to have a team that's working on the current stuff, and then one team is kind of putting the pieces together for the future stuff. And even when I was just talking about a couple months ago about a month ago when episode 1 of final season dropped for Walking Dead, and it was just they announced every episode. They had a release date for every episode before the first episode came out.
Yep.
They've never done it before. They've always said timeline. Oh, 6 to 8 weeks we'll have a new episode, and they've done a decent job. With Batman, the first season, they we're gonna do 1 episode a month, and we're gonna complete the whole season in 4 months, and they did that. They stuck to it. And it just seemed like they were finally getting everything back on track. And they released a statement stating basically like that, where like we were getting things, like we made some tough calls and we were trying to put everything back together and turn the ship around. We just ran out, or they just ran out of time, and they unfortunately, I mean, if you're hiring somebody just a week ago to move across country to come work for you, and then you're laying them off, it makes me seem like this was something that happened recently. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just kind of crazy. Like, you want to be hiring people and bringing people in just to get rid of them a week later.
No.
So it makes me wonder. Like, to me, like, yeah, I think for some people, like we saw some, there were some concerns there, especially last November when you heard about the layoffs. But they when they did a good job of kind of twisting it, maybe not twisting it, but like the story they told, I'm like, okay, that's it sucks, but it's maybe for the future of the company, it's the best thing. And then they got rid of one of their founders, the co-founders, that was the last one left. He got fired back in the spring. He's suing them, so that was concerning. But I'm like, okay, maybe he was the guy in charge when things were going awry. So maybe like got rid of this guy, and we're okay. We're on the right path again, and here we are. It's over, pretty much. And I don't know. It's just it's. I had a lot of emotions. Like like this one hit me more than probably anything has hit me. Like we don't typically talk about closures too much unless it's kind of a big thing. Like EA closes a studio or something like that, or something big happens. We don't typically talk about them, but this one I feel like we kind of had to just maybe on for my side of it, where like Telltale is one of my favorite game companies, maybe my favorite game company, and see them gone. It's depressing, and to read it online, there's definitely a lot of positive people. And then there's like the shitty people. Oh, well, you should update your engine. Oh, your games are glitchy. Yeah, we know. Maybe they should have. There's two people on the internet, I guess. There's the douchey ones, and then there's like the thank you guys ones. Greg Miller actually did a tweet this morning, or posted a tweet this morning, basically saying thank you, but like the way he phrased it was just about how like Walking Dead made me cry, Tales of Borderlands made me laugh, and it has a long post. So if you got, I would search that one out. It's really good, but it's tough because like, and they were talking. Some of the guys on there were talking. I was reading. I spent a lot of time reading about this, and the people that lost their jobs were tweeting about it. Like, we're one of the best narrative game writers in the business, and they are. I think they're probably 1 or 1A, and it just sucks. It's frustrating. It sucks. Obviously, these people lost their jobs, but it's just how I was stunned by that. Just how like they got all these big IPs. You're bringing all this stuff. You just had announced that big Netflix deal. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's just I don't know what to say about it. It's just I've been thinking about it for a whole 24 hours now, how to process this whole thing, and I still don't know how to do it. I just thank you to those guys, all 200 and some odd of you, 500 and some odd of you, including the ones that were laid off last year, because I've loved the majority. I played them all except for the Minecraft one. Loved them all, or at the very least liked them quite a bit. So yeah, I don't know. It sucks and it's frustrating. And now like this with the season being canceled, there's a lot of talk about because you couldn't buy the episodes. Usually they're $5 a piece. You can't buy Walking Dead final season. You can't buy it episodically. You got to buy the whole season for $20. So for us that bought that season, like, are we SOL? Is there like a refund coming? Is there a make good? Like what's going to happen there if it's actually over? You gave us 2 of the 4 episodes. I don't know how that's going to work. Technically they gave us something, but it's not what they advertise they're giving us. So I don't know. It's a whole mixed bag. I guess I'll probably talk more about it when we find out, because whether I don't. It's not it's $20. It's not a big deal cash wise, but I'm curious what's gonna happen with that. I'm sure it's gonna be something's brought up, but I just thank you to all you guys at Telltale, all you former were at Telltale. Walking Dead season 1 was on my top 30 games of all time list. It was one of my games of the generation, last gen. So Masterpiece Games are one of the ones that kind of turned me into like more of a narrative driven gamer. So I hope those guys land on their feet. And there's been some cool stuff. Like Ubisoft actually posted a tweet about if you guys were at TellTale, meet us here. I think it's on like Monday or something like that. At this place, and we could talk. So about like getting the job. So it's really great. You know, the downside, you hear about these closures all the time, like Capcom Vancouver closed their studio.
Yep.
Like 120 people lost their job last week. And it's just like as shitty as that side of the business is, like it's probably the one you hear about the most layoffs in. But it's always kind of, I guess the bright side, it's always great how like the community gets together, and like people, like whenever you hear about, hey, like you'll see EA, Ubisoft, smaller companies, things like that, like all posting like we're hiring, like here's a link, check us out. And you got Ubisoft out there now, like having basically like a job fair for these guys in San Francisco, where the studio is located at.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a bittersweet thing. So maybe, you know, I've worked for a company before where you kind of see the writing on the wall, where we went from 500 employees to 60 employees in just a few months.
Yep. I've been in similar situations before too, where like I was at a company where we basically had about like what 40, 50 different type of people, and all of a sudden it was just cut down to about not even like just a little over half that until we're like about 15 or so.
Yeah.
Jeez. Never a good feeling.
No,
It wasn't a good feeling at all. I mean, hell, a lot of people they were working with for a long time, all of a sudden, randomly one day just goes forth and just they're not working with anymore. They're either quit or they either been let go or moved other places and stuff, and that totally shakes up the morale of like the work environment for those that are left.
Yeah. So yeah, and I wonder if they. I mean, I'm assuming they probably saw the writing on the wall, or at least knew things weren't going well. Maybe they didn't know how bad it was. But you know, I like I said, I've been in a company that we lost over 80% of our staff in just, you know, a few months, and we all saw a lot of us saw the writing on the wall a year plus out. But a lot of us stuck around. Majority of us stuck around, and you know, eventually at a certain point, I made the call to jump off the. I was one of the rats jumping off the sinking ship. I was lucky enough to be one of those people that didn't lose my job, but it was you know, it was a tough time where it's just like these people you work with for years, all of a sudden they're gone now. You never hear from them again. The people you talk to these people you talk to every day, all of a sudden you never know what happened to them. You assume they're doing well, but you don't know. And yeah, it's a really crappy situation to be in. Especially in this case where they got nothing. They live in San Francisco, the most expensive city in the United States, and they have no benefits, no money, or no severance. Most of them can't get unemployment. So I hope, you know, everything works out for them in the end. This might be you know, for me it worked out. I'm much better off than where I was 3 years ago at that last job, and maybe for some of these guys. This might be really bad now, but a year from now, this might be the best thing that ever happened to them. So, you know, here's looking up. Hopefully, you know, those guys lay on their feet. But once again, thank you guys.
Good fortune. Yeah. Thank you. Good fortune and good luck.
Yes. But get the sad stuff out of the way, I guess. Let's try to do a hard segue into some of the more positive stuff.
Okay.
This is a cool thing that happened. PlayStation Classic was announced.
Yes.
It's going to be $100. It launches on December 3rd. There's going to be 20 games on it. 5 of them have been announced so far. The 5 are Final Fantasy VII, Tekken 3, Wild Arm, Jumping Flash, and Ridge Racer Type 4. So 15 games still have to be announced. They said there's going to be no online functionality. It comes with 2 controllers. So you can't add any more games to it, which that was a question out there. I don't think it's a big shock. That's not going to be the case. But I mean, Gables, you have the NES Classic and the SNES Classic. You see yourself getting that PlayStation Classic.
It all depends upon the next 15 games they unveil, to be perfectly honest with you. Tekken 3 and Final Fantasy VII, I know are very popular games, and I have both of them on the PS1. they honestly, I would need something a little bit more to try to tempt me into try to buying this. I mean, here's what we've seen so far from the games that have been unveiled. A lot of which are very significant to the PlayStation's ecosystem back in around the middle to late 90s. Final Fantasy VII being one of the most influential RPGs of that system in that generation. Then you have lesser known RPG Wild Arms, which that's a pretty good one.
Mm-hmm.
But Tekken 3, that's a great fighting game. Jumping Flash is considered one of the first 3D platformer style of games before Mario 64. And then you have Ridge Racer Type 4, which, hey, that's supposed to be a decent racing game. But in order for me to jump on this bandwagon here of actually trying to buy this PlayStation 1 Classic, it needs to have the right sort of games in order to adhere to the, not only to my tastes, but just a broader tastes of like everyone else. So I'm talking about games that many people would recognize, would know. And I'm definitely talking about gaming franchises that Sony should reach out to, like say Konami, for example. They should try to get games like Metal Gear Solid, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, or even Silent Hill. So those three games are synonymous.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, this is what actually one of the things I was going to lead to was, if say Sony calls us and says, what are the 15 games? You guys get to decide the last 15 games.
Okay.
What should they be? No issues about licenses, things like that. What are the 15 things should be on there? So I figured we would go. So I think those are the three. I think those are three we all agree on: MGS, Silent Hill, and then Castlevania. Yep. So I'm typing in there. Sorry about that. But so we got 12 more games. What else? Here's my question: Do the Crash games get on there? And if so, all three of them? Or just one? Should we pick, do we pick one? Resident Evil, should that be on there?
Well, here's the thing. When it comes to the games in and of itself, DualShock-enabled games is going to be a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, because they don't have the DualShock.
Because they don't have the DualShock. So.
There's only one game that requires it. It's,
Ape Escape.
Ape Escape, yes, thank you. So that's the only game that requires it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only game that really requires it. But other than that, most of the early PS1 games, upwards until I would say around 98, 99, when the DualShock was actually introduced, there were plenty of them that never even used the DualShock. They had to use that the PlayStation's D-pad, which, I don't like that D-pad at all.
No.
But the games that I would think, other than those three I just mentioned, obviously, there would need to be some form of a Crash Bandicoot game on there. That's synonymous with PlayStation from the early days. So, in terms of how many of them, I would probably think that they're probably going to get one of them. So, it's probably going to be the original Crash Bandicoot.
Okay.
Personally.
So Crash 1. Okay. Do we put Resident Evil game on there? Probably Resident Evil 1. Think that should go on that list?
Actually, I think Resident Evil 1 would probably make the most sense, since it does have the tank controls, and they did not have anything in terms of the DualShock support until later on games and later on that console's life cycle.
Okay.
Let's see.
Spyro?
Spyro, most definitely, I would say probably one game from Spyro, and that's probably going to be the original one as well.
Okay. See if I can pull up a list here.
So, how many do we got so far?
We're up to we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got 9 more we can do. Okay. Do we put another Final Fantasy in there?
Yes, I think we would put in Final Fantasy 9.
9, okay.
To be exact, because the reason why I would not say Final Fantasy 8 is because there are translation issues with the game in and of itself, and it's mostly one of the reasons why that game was not announced by Square Enix to release on Switch, is because of them having to go back and actually have to rework entire portions of that game in order to make it work properly to re-release. Yeah. But that may not be the issue, honestly. And thinking about it now, if say they could get just one more Final Fantasy game on there, actually I wouldn't even think Final Fantasy 9, honestly. I would think Final Fantasy Tactics.
Do you think all three?
No. Okay. I don't think all three, because what I think Sony's going to do is they're going to have the first wave of this PlayStation Classic, and then the next year they're probably going to do a DualShock version of it. So the games that were enabled with the DualShock will be released next year for the same price, $100.
Okay.
So like a PlayStation Classic Volume 2.
Okay. What about Gran Turismo?
Yes, definitely a Gran Turismo game. If I had to choose, it probably would be the second one.
Okay.
I forget whether the second one had DualShock support, though.
I don't know. 1999, so probably.
Okay, so probably the original Gran Turismo.
Okay. Okay, so I'm looking at a list here.
Well, you're looking at a list. I'm trying to think off cuff here.
Would one of the original GTAs be on there possibly? Ooh, Tomb Raider.
Actually. The original Tomb Raider could be a bit of a stretch, though, but I wouldn't think that it wouldn't be like totally out of the question. So yeah, let's put out the original Tomb Raider.
Okay. Did you put the original GTA on there?
Honestly, I probably wouldn't, only because I know it's vastly different than the GTA that is out now, but I wouldn't think GTA would be on there. I would think more or less Twisted Metal being on there more so than I would
that's a good one.
GTA.
Yeah. Twisted Metal.
And not just any Twisted Metal 2.
Yeah, you gotta get 2 in there. Parappa the Rapper.
Parappa the Rapper is a given, I think.
I just typed raper. Oops. Oopsie.
Oh, speaking of ravers stuff, how about let's see, you could get like a Soul Reaver game in there, or even Blood Omen.
2, 3, 4.
Because those things are pretty... Yeah, I know there's a lot of great PlayStation games, but I think there are going to be a good portion, like maybe 3 to 4, possibly like RPGs, including like, say, Final Fantasy VII and stuff, so it's going to be... Let's see, Final Fantasy VII, you have Wild Arms that are announced originally. So, I know Final Fantasy Tactics is a tactics game.
Oddworld, Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver. I think those 2.
The original Oddworld, I would definitely say, is probably more or less going to happen, possibly, for that system.
So we got 3 spots left. You want to put Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver in there?
No, because there is another game series which I think would be better represented inside there, and that's... Oh my gosh, I just had it in my head just a moment ago right here. Siphon Filter.
Oh, okay, Siphon Filter. All right.
Siphon Filter. That game franchise has not been touched since the original PlayStation games days. So the first Siphon Filter should be inside there.
What about D?
Nah, no.
Oh, man, okay.
No.
If Justin was here right now, he'd be so pissed off at you.
There's certain quality of games, and there's Vampire Hunter D. Anyway.
Pepsi Man?
I thought that would please some people, but no, I don't think Pepsi Man's going to make it on there.
Crash Team Racing.
Ooh. No, not the first. I think it would be going forth in like maybe the volume 2 of like a PlayStation Classic.
Okay. Trying to see. Because we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We got 2 spots left.
Okay. So we got 2 spots left, and we're trying to think of some of the earlier games here. Not just earlier games, but...
Ooh. Oh, man, what about something too extreme?
How about Cool Borders?
Cool Borders, we could do.
Cool Borders, and then... Oh, boy.
I used to love those games. That's the Too Extreme game back in the day. Badass game.
Yeah, and I think the last one... Let's see, I think the last one should be something... Oh, something familiar.
Hot Shots Golf? Was that PS1?
Yeah. Hot Shots Golf. Go with the original Hot Shots Golf.
All right. Cool. That's our 15 then.
All right.
Hot Shots Golf. All right.
Be right back in just a moment.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool list though. So our 20 games are the 5 included already. We know for a fact: Final Fantasy VII, Tekken 3, Wild Arm, Jumping Flash, and Ridge Racer Type 4. I have no idea what Jumping Flash is, by the way. The 15 that we picked out: Metal Gear Solid, Silent Hill, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Crash 1, Resident Evil 1, Spyro the Dragon, Final Fantasy Tactics, Gran Turismo 1, sorry, the original Tomb Raider, Twisted Metal 2, Parappa the Rapper, Oddworld, Siphon Filter, Cool Borders, and Hot Shots Golf. So those are our 20 games. I'm curious if you would buy that, because I'd buy that probably just for MGS alone. But I guess for Gables kind of gave his opinion on it. I saw it. I have the NES and SNES and Classic as well. Still have yet to open them. I've actually owned two European SNES Classics. Gave one away last year for Extra Life. But I have pre-ordered one. I don't know if I'll keep it yet. I'm gonna see what those 15 games are. $100 is a little bit on that pricey end for me. I think it's pushing it quite a bit there. 2 controllers, but whatever. The NES Classic being at $60, that's like it's an impulse buy. Even 80 for the SNES Classic is still in that fringe level of a impulse buy. This being at 100, and especially that generation, which everybody always talks about, and I think most people agree, that generation, that first generation with 3D models, it doesn't age super well. So $100 for that is a little rough. But it looks cool. I think it'd be cool to have. So I'll probably end up getting it. It's selling out quite a bit everywhere now. It wasn't at first. It seemed like it was a little more readily available, but at least online, a lot of places are no longer taking pre-orders. So if you find one and you're at the very least curious or at least interested in it, I'd say pre-order one just to get it in. That's what I did. Just in case something happens with those 15 and it wows me and something I don't remember or something shocks me, I'll pick it up. But I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. When I first heard about it, and I think a lot of people were that same way, at least according to Twitter, the PlayStation Classic name, going with the Classic, a lot of people kind of laughed at that. But someone made a good point I saw about how PlayStation's been referring to the PS1 games as PlayStation Classics for about a decade now. So it's not really like people are like, they're just copying off of the SNES Classic and the NES Classic, which yes they are, but people were knocking them for taking the name. But technically they've been referring to them longer than than Nintendo has. I get I don't know. I'm not saying Nintendo copied off PlayStation, but I think it was a little overblown. I think, but I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. I hope it. I hope this sells well. And it's kind of cool if we see it. Do we see a PlayStation 2 Classic? Do we see a PSP Classic? I would love that just for the UMD of Terminator 2 on PSP, just so I can carry that around and watch that again, because I own like 3 things on the PlayStation Portable. It was best of Saturday Night Live, best of Chris Farley, Terminator 2, and then some Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops. Those are the 3 things I ever owned on that thing. That was a shit console. It's like PlayStation's bad at making portables. Gables is gone, so I'm just kind of rambling right now. That's really what I'm doing. He'll be back. I hope shortly. I hope. I don't know. I can't do this much longer without him. But I guess he's not here, so I'm just gonna move on. I've rambled enough about it. So we actually got one more topic to talk about. I'm sorry. We have 2 more topics to talk about. Wow. Sticking with PlayStation, they announced a pretty cool thing with PlayStation Now, which people don't know. PlayStation Now is a service they've had around for a few years now, where you can subscribe. I think it's like $20 a month or $15 a month, or it's like $120 a year. Or $150. I can't remember what it is. It's not cheap, but they have a deal now with PlayStation Now. It's too many nows. But you can, if you're a subscriber, you can download. You have options to download PlayStation 4 and PS2 games for the service. So instead of streaming them, like we've all been doing that have had it, certain games for certain PS4 games, you can download directly to your console. And I think all the PlayStation 2 games you can download as well. So kind of a cool thing, I think. Also, if any of the games that are downloadable, you can also download all of the DLC and some of the microtransactions, I guess, too, if you want to. I don't know why you want to do that, but you can. Use it in the blog post that PlayStation had. It said you have to connect to the internet every few days to verify your user subscription, which makes sense. And then if you're a new subscriber, they have a deal that goes on until I believe on Tuesday it ends. So through Tuesday, the 25th. For new subscribers only, you can get it for a month for $10, 3 months for $30, or you can get it for a year for $100 if you want to do that. So if you're interested in doing that, there's a deal for you to start off with. Gables, are you back? No, he's not. He's not back yet. Shit. So yeah. I don't know. I think it's kind of a cool thing that they're doing. Once again. Oh, I hear it, Gables. Is he back? Is that Gables? I think I hear him. Boop 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 boop. Boop 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 do 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 do.
I'm back.
Do, 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 do.
What is this, your interlude music?
What?
What is this, your interlude music?
Yeah. I ran out of things to talk about. So I heard you coming, so I just started humming the Wii music, mini music.
We'll be right back to your scheduled programs.
I'm just gonna when you walked away, I'm just gonna cut the episode of me doing that. But moving on to our last topic, Gables.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite things of the month. It is NPDs.
Here we go.
These are the top 20 money earning games for the previous month. So this is August. I'm going to start from number 20 and work my way up. So number 20, Crew 2. 19, We Happy Few. 18, Lego The Incredibles. 17, Overwatch. 16, Mario Tennis Aces. 15, Call of Duty World War II. 14, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, which was like a late August release for the Switch. 13, Far Cry 5. 12, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. 11, Minecraft. 10, Mario Odyssey. 9, Breath of the Wild. 8, this is the craziest one, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. 2009 classics in the top, and number 8
wait.
last month.
And is that like an Xbox 360 game, or is that actually a re-release or something?
No, there's no re-release. I think it was added to the Game Pass feature, or no, it was added to the backwards compatibility last month, I believe.
And more people bought Modern Warfare 2, the 360 version?
Yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with you people? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. People
I don't care what you
it.
play, but still.
Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, I know, right? That's probably one of the craziest things I've ever seen in this NPD.
A 10-year-old online game, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, so like I said, it was recently added to backwards compatibility, and then I think there was a big sale on it digitally, so people. This is all digital sales, by the way. Obviously, there's no one's going out to GameStop buying a brand new copy of Modern Warfare 2. You can't do that. 7, God of War. 6, Naruto to Boruto. Fucking really? Shinobi Striker. Okay, that's a thing. 5, Mario Kart 8. 4, of course, GTA 5. 3, Rainbow Six Siege. 2, Monster Hunter World, released on PC last month. And then number 1, of course, Madden NFL 19.
Okay, that's no surprise for number 1.
Yeah, number 1, obviously, no surprise there. That's always number 1 in August, for the August. Monster Hunter World, number 2. That's awesome to hear.
That is awesome to hear. It released earlier on this year for the PS4, and now the PC version's finally out.
Yeah, so great to see that it's there's still some buzz around that game. I know there's a lot of concerns about that game, just because maybe like the buzz worn off by then. But it's great to see that up there. Rainbow Six Siege and GTA 5, those games are always up there. Crazy to still see them that high, but August was kind of a slower month than usual. Usually you still see a few bigger games come out in August. We really didn't see that. But kind of looking through here, Modern Warfare 2, obviously the biggest one of them all being on that list.
Yep.
But Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, that's cool to hear. A Switch exclusive game that was a port of a 3DS game. Cool to see it up there. I heard this because I can't remember his name, but I follow the guy that he's like the NPD guy on Twitter, and he mentioned last month's number one. Do you remember what it was?
Oh my God! Last month's number one.
It came or July's number one, I should say.
Oh boy, I don't remember that.
So it was a Switch exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Octopath Traveler.
That fell off quick.
Not even in the top 20.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if it was maybe the lack of keeping up with the in-game stock, because Nintendo doesn't include digital sales in their NPDs standings. So maybe that game sold like crazy on digital, but as far as physical goes, it didn't do super well. Apparently, especially seeing the fact Modern Warfare 2 was number 8 last month. So that means it took a big nosedive on a physical standpoint. So that's kind of a bummer to see. That's like the most shocking thing about this list. Actually, I think more than Modern Warfare 2, and that's not even on this list. That's how big of a deal it is to me. But like I said, last August, not a big month, big crazy month. So you're seeing a lot of repeats on here. A lot of games that are almost always on here. And then obviously no surprise Madden NFL 19. But anything you want to add on that one?
To be perfectly honest with you, other than the fact that one, Octopath Traveler is not even on the list since it was number 1 in July's NPD, and the fact that Modern Warfare 2 somehow, some way, is back on the NPD after being off for like a couple of years at least.
Like 9 years, yeah.
That is probably one of the more shocking NPD listings I've seen in a while, or have heard about in a while, because everything else seems to be more routine. Okay, Madden's number 1 for the month of August. We kind of get that was going to be the thing, because Madden does that every year, where it's always consistently inside that top 10 from the time it releases to the end of the year.
Yep.
But other than that, though, I mean, there are other like types of things that I'm not surprised of as well, like how well GTA 5 is still doing. Zelda Breath of the Wild still remaining in that top 10.
Yep.
Man, that's pretty cool. But just there were just a few surprises here, and I thought that was actually pretty solid of a surprising month.
Yeah. It seems like Mario Kart 8 is always in the top 10, and you got Breath of the Wild and Odyssey always floating around the top 10 list somewhere. Like
they'll continue to float on up until that console's life cycle.
Yeah.
I kid you not. I'll call it right now. It's that this has happened like with past Nintendo systems before, where it's like, say the Wii, like Mario Kart Wii and like Mario Odyssey and like stuff like that, were like constantly in the NPD stuff.
Yeah. So, cool to see. Big bummer about Octopath Traveler, though, of course. But hopefully that's just a issue of not being able to get physical copies out in the store shelves. Then interest in the game was dropped. But let's move into what we've been playing, though, this week. Gables, do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
You can start this time.
Okay. I've only been playing one game this week. It is, I talked about a little bit. I mentioned I was playing it last week, but I didn't talk about it really. Shadow of the Tomb Raider dropped last Friday. I didn't want to talk about last week because I was focusing mostly on Spider-Man. And I only played a couple hours of it. I played a little bit more of it. It's been kind of a busy week. I didn't get the luxury of having launch day off like I did for Spider-Man. I think I'm probably in that 6-hour range for this game. But
okay, that's respectable.
Yeah.
Like what, halfway through it?
I have no clue. I've been doing I've probably done a decent amount of side stuff, so I don't know
Right.
how. I just got a gun like an hour
Okay.
ago in the game, so
Oh gosh.
I don't.
Gosh.
Yeah, so I think I'm kind of getting through it fairly slowly, but I'm someone I really like this new Tomb Raider. Like I cared nothing at all about Tomb Raider up until the reboot in 2013.
That's kind of like me as well.
Yeah, I played that one. I'm just like, when it came out, I didn't have any interest in it really, even when it came out though. Back in 2013, and then everybody's like, oh, it's just, it's kind of like it's like their own version of Uncharted, which I'm like, I love Uncharted. I'll take a Uncharted like game for sure. And I picked it up and played it. I loved it. One of my 10 favorite games of 2013 when it came out. It's just been kind of like the last 5 years, maybe one of the most underrated franchises, I think, where they consistently been doing really well with this franchise. Like Rise of Tomb Raider came out in like 2015. And it's the problem is with this franchise, they just kind of Square Enix kind of bungled it from the start, where they almost closed the studio because it sold like 3 million copies, but it still lost money, the original one. And I was just like, oh, we're never gonna see a sequel. And then we got a sequel, but then they screwed it up because they made it like Xbox exclusive for a year when nobody played Xbox One. So it came out and everybody it was all on the PlayStation 4 bandwagon. So it kind of got lost in the weeds, and they released it a year later on the PS4. And it's just like during, I think it was like 2016, which is a really outstanding year, and it got lost in the shuffle because it released it in the middle. They released it in the winter or the holiday season in 2015, then released it again on PS4 in the holiday 2016. So it just got lost in the shuffle there. Now here it is, released in September, the week after Spider-Man, and it's got its own buzz. It's probably the because remember the first one came out, it was right around BioShock. What was the third one? BioShock Infinite came out.
Yes.
It was like right sandwiched in between Gears of War Judgment and BioShock Infinite, and it was just like it got lost. It's like Titanfall. It's like Titanfall 2, where it just got sandwiched between two very popular franchises. One outstanding game, BioShock Infinite. And it's never really. I think it's never really got its full justice. Or I don't know, justice is the word I want to use, but it doesn't deserve the praise it gets, I guess is what I want to say. And this one, it feels like it's getting a decent amount more, but it's not what it should be, I think. But anyways, about this game, it continues on the story of Lara dealing with this evil corporation Trinity, this group that's trying to like get these treasures that they can basically rule the world with, and this one, like, she's in the first, like, Tomb Raider 1, she's like this, she's just like a archaeologist that's trying to solve her dad's searches that he was doing, and like, remember in the first one she kills somebody, and it's like this huge moment, like, because she wasn't a murderer, she barely used a gun, she wasn't like anything like that at all, she was just a researcher. And now it's like in the second one, it kind of progressed more towards her trying to stop these guys. In this one, she's kind of more stone cold about things, about how she's gonna do what she's got to do to get the shit done. But she's also more kind of she's not as like likable and charming as she was in the first one. I think it's by design, where she is she has no qualms about like hurting people or doing what she's got to do to get to stop Trinity, and even like she's almost like unlikable in a way in this game, where she's just kind of cocky and arrogant. She cusses a lot in this one, which isn't, that's not a bad thing, but she's just I don't remember her cussing too much in the first two games, and I consistently hear her drop F-bombs and shit and stuff like that. And the way she is with her best friend Jonah, who's been in the first two games, she's kind of treats him like shit, really, which sucks. So I like Jonah. Jonah's good. He's a cool guy, and yeah, it's just like she starts the apocalypse in this game. Like she is so like she can't control herself that she starts it, and like it's just a weird storyline where like you're playing as a character that's kind of unlikable, but you're also progressing. You're one doing this in a weird way too. But like I said, I think it's all by design through the story. But the gameplay itself, they haven't changed it too much. It's very similar to the other ones, but this one it seems to focus more on like the tomb raiding side of things, where like, the first one was more like puzzle based and more there's more tombs and stuff you can do, and the second one seemed more action oriented. And
So basically like Uncharted.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was kind of funny in ways like I remember Uncharted 4 came out and it was yeah, they kind of took a couple things from Tomb Raider, and now but yeah, anyway, it really is, the whole trilogy is kind of like a take on Uncharted, which, like I said, I'm not gonna knock it too much for doing that, because I like Uncharted, so I'm happy to have more games like Uncharted. But they do their own a decent job of kind of twisting and making their own with some Metroidvania kind of stuff to it too, with some more open world things. But yeah, the second one was much more, felt like much more of a shooter than a puzzler, where there was very few tombs and very few puzzles. And it was just like more of a shooter game than it was a platforming game. And this one, it's going back a little more towards what the original Tomb Raider was, where it's more a lot, like you spend a lot of the game by yourself. There's not a lot of enemies, at least in the gameplay I've played so far. Like I spent a lot of time, making my way through puzzles, and I found there's a lot more. Like the first game I think only had a few tombs in it, and they're all side ones. There was no actual like gameplay ones. This one, there's like I've already found like 5, I think, tombs, like side ones, and I've already gone through a couple in the main game. So, and like I said, I haven't played a super ton of this game. So I like that part of it, because like I like the combat. Like the combat's fun. But the thing I liked about it most was the platforming elements of it and the puzzle solving. So it seems like it's going back more towards that so far. And when you are in combat, it's more focused, I think, on the stealth side of things. Where every fight I've been in so far, every enemy encounter I've had so far, I wouldn't even have to like get into a firefight with them. I didn't want to. A couple of them have broken into that, but the rest of it, you can just stealth your way through it with your bow or stealth attacks. So I'm definitely, like I said, I played 5 or 6 hours of it, but I'm very early in the story. I'm definitely gonna keep playing it. I don't know how much of this game I have left to complete. I don't think I'm like really close to finishing it. But so far, I think it's on the right track. Even with having, I think it's Eidos Montreal that's making this one. I can't remember the name of the other company, but they're making a Avengers game right now. But with them doing it, I was really nervous. So far, I'm liking it, and I'll talk about it a little more next week. But Gables, what have you been playing?
All right, so I have been playing a couple new games this week, but before I get into that, just wanted to give a little bit of a WoW update, where I am currently at level 83. I have finally gotten towards the first expansion where I'm actually following track of the story, because the story kind of is almost front and center. And I'm talking about the expansion for the Mists of Pandaria. Now, Pandaria is kind of a little bit different than what I've faced so far inside things like Burning Crusade and like Lich King and stuff. And it's kind of funny, after I got through some of the things, the Lich King stuff, and I got upwards to level 80, it actually presents you with the option of, oh, you want to do Cataclysm expansion, or do you want to do Mists of Pandaria instead? So after doing a little bit of research, I went with Pandaria, only because the missions are kind of clustered together in sort of a way, and plus there are specific profession stuff that I want to try to level up and kind of advance forward with, kind of like the fishing stuff. So that's one of the reasons why I decided to go that route. As instead of going to Cataclysm, which is a bunch of underwater stuff, which I don't really like doing underwater stuff in general in games. So just thinking about the idea of having to swim and try to keep track of my breath meter and stuff while doing things, this does not sound appealing whatsoever. I'm sure you've had that kind of like stuff while you're playing games too, Tyler.
Oh yeah, no, like Shadow of the Tomb Raider, a lot of it's underwater, which
boy.
Not a lot of things in games bug me, but I hate like underwater stuff in gaming.
Yeah.
Like Mario levels are like the worst thing in the world to me, up there with Nazis. But then like also games where it's like this, where you're swimming, like Uncharted was that way too, where like it kind of makes me claustrophobic. It makes you uncomfortable when you're underwater swimming, and like you gotta worry about your air that you have. You're like on the verge of drowning at all times. I hate it.
Yeah, that's kind of like the same thing that's happened with me while I've been playing like WoW. Is I'd be doing an underwater fight and stuff, and I'd be really getting into it and stuff, and I go across a couple characters, and then all of a sudden, randomly, I just see my character's death animation. I just realize, oh, that's right, I'm underwater right now. Oh, but other than that, though, like I said before, I'm at level 83. I'm edging ever so closer, trying to get my character to 120, get it ready for whatever. But in between that time and stuff, I want to try to get my professions up because I want to try to get my fishing stuff done, my mining, my blacksmithing. Just there's a whole bunch of things I can go into, quintessentially. But my main focus is leveling and getting some better gear. But that's that. So one of the first new games I've played in a while is Mantis Burn Racing. That game is available on the Switch and on PS4 and stuff. I picked it up as part of a eShop sale a while ago, and I hadn't had a chance to really try a bunch of it up until this week. So here I am. I just go through and I turned on my Switch for the first time in so many different weeks. I went through and I ended up getting that 3-month thing for the Nintendo Switch Online stuff. And I decided to try, okay, let's go ahead and, while this thing's downloading, let's go and play some Mantis Burn Racing. So quintessentially what it is, it's basically sort of like a RC Racer style racing game where you have different mission objectives, have various other stuff. In a way, the quality of the game itself kind of reminds me of the Riptide GP game that I was playing on Switch earlier, to where it's the look of the game and the music are sort of average at best. But if you try to listen to it like at extended periods of time, it sort of grains on you. Let's see. The mission stuff is not that bad, and I think the gameplay is pretty easy and understandable to get around and stuff. But after playing about a good solid, what was it, half an hour during earlier parts of this week, and then all of a sudden I decided to play it for another like half an hour or so today, I'm not really feeling this game at all right now. I'm not too sure whether it's not the presentation of the game or the way it's structured or how the gameplay is, but I don't know. There's just some times when I play specific games of a genre, I kind of expect a little bit more out of it. Like, for example, the closest game I can really compare Mantis Burn Racing to that I've played through and enjoyed was like MotorStorm RC. Only this one is more like Mantis Burn Racing is more of a top-down perspective, and there are different types of modes that you can do this game. Like, you do have your time trials and stuff. You do have your standard racing and stuff, but some of the mission structures are kind of weird to where there are some options where it's like a best of 2 races or something like that. Then you do a time trial. But also you have the options to upgrade your car if you want to by earning these different types of equipable mods or something to equip onto your car based upon how many slots that you have for each car. And you can upgrade how many slots you can have and this and that. So there is some bit of complexity to this racing game. And it can be fun in bursts and stuff when you're going through and just doing races. And it's more or less you timing your drifts just right by somehow balancing your control stick and stuff. It's not as smooth as, say, like a Mario Kart would be, or like how MotorStorm RC would be in certain things we do turns. It's totally based upon the analog stick and how softly you can actually push it to the left or to the right. Because that's the thing. Whenever you go through corners while playing Mantis Burn Racing, sometimes your car, if you hold it on for too long, it's gonna spin. It's gonna spin. Your car is gonna have like this awkward angle to where it's gonna slam into the walls or something like that, or it's just hypersensitive. The steer mechanic is for this game. I'm not too sure whether if it's just the equipped mods or something, or maybe just the car in general, like the stats of it, because I haven't really gotten too far past where I'm at right now. But I'm definitely getting the impression where this game is fun in bursts, but I don't think I'm really into it as much as I want to be. But other than that, though, the other new game that I had a chance to play a little bit of that I just started today was a game called Plague Road. Now, Plague Road is a game. It's sort of like a strategy. It's sort of like a turn-based strategy game, to where there's some where basically you play as this character called the Doctor, right? And you have to go through and try to recruit a lot of these. You have to rescue these various villagers from different types of monsters and this and that. And it's like I was saying previously about Mantis Burn Racing, where it definitely gives you the impression of the game kind of feeling average at best and stuff. But the gameplay core aspects of it can be fun in bursts and stuff. And it's just kind of weird though, because it's like it feels like a lot of the enemies are overpowered on purpose in the beginning portions of the game, so it kind of makes you like you end up dying like quite a few times and stuff before you get a bunch of decent villagers here and there. Because I've already died like about 2 or 3 times in this start of the game. It's not even an hour yet, because I wanted to try to go through and rescue a couple villagers that were required for this one NPC character and stuff. But I've already went through a lot of my health potions and a lot of the stamina stuff that the game gives you. So I get the impression this game is brutally hard to, like, say, further down the road. It's probably going to get even tougher than that. And that kind of gives me a little bit of a turn off. Not because of the difficulty thing at the beginning, but just the fact that I'm not really more or less in the mood to play this type of a game. But the positive stuff about it is the art style of it looks pretty fun. It actually looks pretty dark and stuff in and of itself. A lot of the voice acting stuff that I've heard so far is actually covered by former games journalist Jim Sterling, which actually is pretty fun just to hear his like open dialogue and stuff and how he gets into a lot of the game's text and dialogue. I mean, that's enjoyable to me. He has a perfect voice for that kind of dark, campy, sort of like carnival horror style of game that this is kind of representative of it being. But at the same time and stuff, this is another game where I felt like, okay, this is kind of an average at best game. This is definitely something that you play in between a couple of major games that you want. So yeah, ultimately, Mantis Burn Racing and Plague Road, from what I've played so far, they're not bad games. I mean, I don't believe they're bad games at all. At their core, though, they're definitely games I want to put on the back burner, and I'm not going to really focus too much on, because I just want something else that's going to hook me in between playing Warcraft and trying to play a little bit of Earthbound here and there. Which, speaking of which, pardon my slip of the tongue, Earthbound. Yes, that's the last game I've been playing for this week. I have significantly made more progress than the last time. So when last we left, I got my 4th party member, and I went through back to Dalam. I used this teleport beta technique, Pooh's teleport beta technique, to get back to Dalam to go through this various dungeon and stuff to get my 6th, my sanctuary location. So that wasn't actually that difficult too much, because at the rate that I've been leveling up with my party up to this extent where I'm at now, it feels like I'm not overpowered. It actually feels like I am just at that sweet spot to where enemies can surely kill me if I do mess up, and trust me, I have messed up plenty of times. But at the same point, I feel like I'm in a comfortable level where I can go through and just one-shot some things, but like it presents still like a challenge, even if my party is getting closer to their 60s. But yes, I got the 6th my sanctuary location. Then I teleported myself back to Summers and stuff. And what's kind of funny is I took this sailboat. I took this sailboat all the way down to where I needed to be at, which is this desert, right, in order to try to investigate some pyramids. And as soon as I go through, all of a sudden I encounter a boss monster called the Kraken. So obviously, from like other folklore things, the Kraken is sort of something with a beak and this and that and stuff. Earthbound's version of the Kraken is basically some sort of giant serpent or something like that. It looks sort of like a green dragon with no eyes. But I'll tell you what, though. That was the spot during my initial playthrough of Earthbound that I got stuck on because I could not kill the Kraken. I'm happy to report I was able to beat it, but by the skin of my teeth this time. Because I was able to survive, and I was able to make sure it did not wipe me out with a bunch of random, like random bunch of attacks. But let's see, let's see, as soon as I beat the Kraken and stuff, I went to the desert, and I went and investigated a whole lot of, like, different things. Like, I got this little NPC character or something that keeps telling me about something called the Dungeon Man, who is somewhere in the desert. It has his own random dungeon that he has, and it's like a particular tower and stuff. So after I go through the whole shtick of discovering like where the pyramids are at, and going through the sequence and stuff where I have to unlock the front door by basically creating sort of like a star pattern on these switches in order to gain access to this pyramid, I had to go through and get an item called the Hawk Eye. Now, the Hawk Eye is a item that you need in the next area of the game, which I am going to be going through during the next week or so and see how I fare doing that. But basically what I did is I went through this pyramid and faced all these different types of like Egyptian-style monsters, like from hieroglyphs of foxes and snakes and stuff like that to basically these golden like mummy sarcophaguses and stuff, and like these shattered diamond men and all this other crazy crap and stuff. They definitely had some creative enemies in this game, but I'll tell you what, some of the most bizarre things that I've encountered so far was after I got out of the pyramids and stuff, and I'm traveling a bit further through the desert, and all of a sudden I come across this giant tower, right? It looks like a giant tower with eyes and like a nose or something, sort of like a jack-o'-lantern, but it has like almost like a town or something at the top of its tower or something like that. It looks crazy. So investigating further, I find this other NPC character or something that gives me this key, and he tells me it goes to that tower that I just passed by. So of course I go by there. As soon as I enter in, some of the most graining, bizarre music starts playing, and little did I know is this is actually the dungeon for the Dungeon Man that I was supposed to find. So this thing is incredibly easy. There's rest points everywhere. There's a whole bunch of like random enemies that are not overtly strong, but they can drop various items and this and that. And there's actually one floor where it feels like the game designer of the game actually went forth and explained certain enemies. Like some of these enemies, like say the mad ducks and stuff like that, and these gruff goats and these... And I kid you not, there's actually a little section here that you have these little creatures called little miniature piles of puke. They're actually puke monsters, yes. Kind of like similar to how like I was saying weeks ago about Master Belch, which is basically a gigantic like thing of puke. But anyway, I got to the top of the tower, and there's this face on the wall. And basically there's a sign, right? You read the sign, it's like, okay, talk to the face on the wall. That's the Dungeon Man. I'm like, oh god. So of course I walk over there. He just congratulates me on going through his tower and this and that and stuff. And basically I get the rest of the various items I got and stuff. And basically the Dungeon Man asked me, hey, do you want me to join you on your journey? Blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And of course I answer yes and stuff. And so as I'm leaving the Dungeon Man's like tower and stuff, and as I'm exiting the tower itself, I go to walk away, right? And the entire tower of Dungeon Man is following me. Like, literally the damn thing is walking. It's literally walking, it's moving with me. I'm like, oh, he is actually with my party here. And what's kind of crazy is if you face enemies or something like that, he acts as a party member. So he can actually go through and give enemies like big old hugs and immobilize them, or like fucking like just punch the shit out of them or something. But it only lasts for like 5 minutes, because as soon as you get past these palm trees, he gets stuck in the palm trees, and you're like, and he's like, well, I can't help you any further. But the funniest part about it is you leave and stuff, and in order to get to the next area, you need a submarine. So how do you get a submarine in the middle of the desert? You have to go back to Dungeon Man. He lets you back into his tower, and there's randomly a broken submarine, a broken yellow submarine. Here's another Beatles reference there. And you have to have one of your party members fix it. And quintessentially, the last portion of where I'm at right now is my party and I had just took the submarine all the way down to the next area. Now, at this moment in time, there's only 3 party members in my crew right now. The reason why is because after I finished the whole pyramid stuff, my newest character, Pooh, had to go and join this one master of the Starstorm technique in order to learn that technique for him to use later. I know it's kind of a little bit bizarre though. It was unavoidable and stuff. So he has to randomly leave my party as in the middle of when I'm probably gonna need him the most.
Yeah.
But I managed to survive that and go through the whole thing of Dungeon Man and this and that. But yeah, man, this game is constantly surprising me, and like how creative a lot of the enemies are, and then how bizarre a lot of the different types of things you got to do, and some of the most preposterous like situations that it gets yourself in. It definitely has some dark humor to it, but there's just some sort of general like comfortness in knowing like okay, I definitely have like over $100,000 in my bank right here, so I'm gonna go ahead and just spend it on this item equipment stuff or that item equipment stuff, or beat these random groups of enemies in one shot because I managed to caught them by surprise or something while their back is turned, you know? It's just little stuff like that. It just feels like the game in and of itself, kind of like its first game, Earthbound Beginnings, that I played through, it progressively gets easier the farther you get into this game. It's a good surprise, though. But yes, that is all that I've been playing for this week, and I'll have more on Earthbound and whatever games that I play over the next time.
All right, cool. Well, I think we're going to wrap up the show there then. Thank you for listening. If you want to hear more from us, we're on Facebook. We have a page and group. Excuse me. Choked my spit. Oh, God. I'm dying. I'm good now. I think. Nope. Choked on again. Nope. Yep. Okay. All right. I think I'm all right.
The Dungeon Man does that to people.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. This is where I leave you here. Check us out on Drunk Nerds Podcast on Facebook, our Facebook page and group. Twitter at Drunk Nerds Pod. Now I'm all screwed up now for choking my spit twice. Twitch.tv/Drunk Nerds Podcast. On iTunes at Drunk Nerds Podcast. And on YouTube at Drunk Nerds Podcast. Follow us there, subscribe to us there, like, 5 stars, thumbs ups, whatever. Check us out in all those places, please. Thank you guys for listening. I was your host, I was Tyler.
And I have been Hot Rod Colonel Gables. And up until next time, everyone, I hope you have yourself a good night. I hope you have yourself a wonderful week. And I hope you play a bunch of fun games or watch whatever the hell you want. But most importantly of all, catch us next time on the Drunk Nerds Podcast.
Goddamn right. And Gables?
Yep.
Too sweet.
Too sweet.
Bye, guys.
See ya.